Welcome on in to the program. It is Sandy and Sean right here on Mile High Sports Radio. No Sandy, no Sean, no Nate. You get Anilo Piro and Cody Roark to open up today's
old afternoon
program.
drive.
Yeah, exactly. The old afternoon drive program. But we are broadcasting live here from Broncos Park, powered by Common Spirit. Everybody's having a tough time with that one. I think it's pretty easy.
It is super
Broncos
easy.
Park.
And you have reminders everywhere. It's like, it's right there. It's right there. It's right there. It's right there. There's like 60 reminders.
Yeah. And so, okay, before we dive into what we're expecting to see today on the practice field, can we get something out of the way here, Cody? What day of training camp is this? Because I've seen stuff that says day 4. I've seen stuff that says day 6. Like, what day of training camp are we at right now?
This is the 6th training camp practice I've been at. So day 6 of Broncos camp. You know, there's people that, pretend that they're here, that they're not here. It might be day 2 or 3 for them, but, I digress.
Yeah, and so let's work backwards here a little bit. So day 5 would have been yesterday on Monday. You had mentioned it, I know, in your video reports for us on social media as well, in your articles at milehighsports.com, that first day of pads and the defense was rearing and ready to go. Mm-hmm. Not much of a surprise for me, and I was listening to some other conversations with some other media folk. Like, it seems like the defense is typically, when the pads come on, like, they want to hit somebody, right? No. Like that's what they're here to do. That's their job, to a certain extent, where maybe the offense is a little bit more focused on getting down play calls and different types of things in the formations and whatnot. Yeah. But what were your overall takeaways with that defense yesterday? Why were they so effective?
Well, I just say you see the revamped nature of it, right? Adding John Franklin Myers, like, he's a true pressure player, and he's big, he's strong, he's physical, he's disruptive. I mean, if you look at his overall statistics in his career, 19.5 sacks. Throughout the 5 seasons he's played in the NFL, you look at the amount of pressures he generated. Last year, he had a career high in pressures, 27. And we're not talking about outside linebacker. We're talking about defensive end, interior play, which is hard to get after the quarterback. So he creates problems for, opposing offensive lines, really at times because of how strong he is, depending on what technique he lines up, whether he's playing in a 1 or a 3. Like, sometimes he'll command a double team because he's so disruptive, he's so big. And then you have DJ Jones, who, honestly, before he came to Denver, thrived at the nose tackle position. He's back to playing where he was. He had to move to D-end last year. And then now you have Zach Allen, who's, a very good pressure player, sizable, but also quick, and uses his speed to, win some advantages there. But the defensive scheme for that defensive line, in terms of how they attack the offensive line, it's changed. It's more of an attacking style versus last year. Players have told me it's more of last year was a read and react. So it's like you're engaging with the offensive lineman. Okay, where am I going? And then just allowing, like, I'm going to flow to the football and hope everybody else takes the right fits in their run gaps. But that's different. It's attacking. It's trying to say, we're going to impose our will. And that's what they did yesterday. But here's the thing, like, to your point about the offense and the defense, who's further ahead? The defense, this is the base scheme that they're going to be running. Like, they're not really throwing out different wrinkles. Like, easier for defense, they can just go and line up and say, hey, this is what we're doing. You look at the offense, so much of the offense, they're going to call a play, a formation. They're going to go line up, but then they may have to change that play at the line of scrimmage because the defense gives them a look that, hey, okay, we can't run this against that look. Like, there's so many more, I'd say rules for the offense, and it's more complex. But also, here's the thing as well. The defense, they've been going against this offense since the summer. And they're going back to install. Like, they're going through things they've already gone over, like, a couple of months ago. But now they're on the field. They're in pads. They're doing some of those things now. So for the defense, it's easier to know, like, hey, I've seen this formation before. I know what plays coming out of this look, especially if you have a bunch set or, if you're split out wide. Like, you pick up tendencies versus the offense. They can't come out there and say, okay, hey, this is the defensive call that the defense is coming out in because they see a formation. Like, no, it's different because they move around and disguise so much. It's easier for the defense than it is the offense. All that said, the offense needs to bounce back today, and they need to bring a little more physicality to the Broncos defense, specifically on the D-line. And, your offensive line needs to get up to the play side linebackers and just be more physical and get the run game going a little bit. I think that's what we want to see, but also more importantly, protect the quarterback.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. And as we see here, the players getting loose, doing some stretches, getting ready for another day here at Broncos Training Camp, Broncos Park, powered by Common Spirit. And I think just to kind of piggyback off your thought about the defense, Cody, it's also just the more established unit, right?
Yeah.
The offense has been the primary problem with this team for the last 3 or 4 seasons. The defense, all things considered, has been relatively stable. I know they've got some different coordinators and some different players.
They had a terrible start last year, but then they they adjusted the defensive scheme. They changed it, and they changed personnel. They got better, and people are like, oh, well, that 5-game win streak, that was just a streak of really good luck defense. It's not luck. It's execution. They forced turnovers at a crazy rate because They did their assignment. They lined up. They executed, and they trusted their technique. Like I hate this excuse that we make, like, oh, it was just luck. There's no luck in football in most situations. It's going out there and it's executing. And that to me, and Denver, things went right for them. Like it's football, it's sports. Like that, we overcomplicate this game way too much, and it drives me nuts.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And, you mentioned that the offense needs to step up today. I'm very curious to see how they do indeed bounce back. I mean, what are some of the factors that lead to success on offense? I was listening to Sean Payton's press conference a little bit yesterday, and he had mentioned that, maybe sometimes the struggles in regards to what people see is a lot on the coaching staff about trying to get that scheme installed, working on different motions and different formations and whatnot. What do you think goes into stabilizing this offense throughout this training camp period?
Repetition. And as Sean told us yesterday, repetition is the mother of learning in terms of that. Like the more reps you get, the more comfortable you get. But, it's also a test of like, okay, hey, where's the mental fortitude at for this team right now? Like AP, you know this me. Like I'm white. I get so sunburned. I have to wear layers and I have to wear long sleeves in order not to get burnt. But out here, what are you dealing against? It's hot on the football field.
Yeah.
You're wearing pads. Like the first time you throw on the pads, it's a little uncomfortable because you haven't done it in so long. And so there's just a multitude of factors. It's the summer heat. It's long, grueling practices. It's all the meetings you have on top of it. It's long days. Like I think the common myth that people have about NFL teams, they just show up to practice and then they go home and then it's game time on Sunday. These guys are here in the from the offseason program all the way through the end of the season. They are here for 14, 15 hours at the team facility per day. And it's a lot. Like, it's not just like, hey, show up, practice, go home. Yay, look what we did. It's not like that.
Yeah, no, for sure. We're chatting with Cody Roark, our Denver Broncos reporter for us here at MileHighSports.com, broadcasting live from Denver Broncos Training Camp. Hope everybody is doing well out there. Let's do a couple rapid-fire takes here real quick.
All right,
one thing that I think I've noticed, and I've seen some other folks talk about on social media, one of the bigger questions with quarterback Bo Nix coming into the draft and just here is arm strength. The arm strength has been on display throughout this training camp period, my friend.
Yes. I mean, it's not even a question. And look, I think there's an adjustment for Bo because the thing is, he was playing at sea level last year in Eugene, Oregon. And then you come here to Denver, like the ball's going to sell a little bit.
Good point.
But he's got like his touch, the touch he has on his throws. I mean, it's beautiful. And then he's got zip on it. Like, and the thing about Bo that we've seen, and I will applaud Jarrett Stidham on this too. I know that Sean and I know that Sandy and them, they're like, okay, there's really no competition going on for the Broncos at QB, but I mean, there is a competition going on. Like all roads eventually are going to lead to Bo Nix, right? Whether he's the starter now or later, but to say there's not a competition, that's not what we're seeing out here. There is a competition, and Jarrett Stidham and Bo Nix are the two guys that have looked the most consistent on a daily basis in terms of looking comfortable in the offensive scheme. And one thing we're looking at too with QBs, right? Okay, hey, by the time you get the snap in your hands and you go to do your drop back, what's the timing? What's the process like? Are you getting the ball out of your hands quickly? Are you making the right reads? Like these guys are doing that. And what we saw as well, like Sean Payton even touched on this yesterday, their mobility is a very underrated aspect of their game. Specifically, Bo Nix had a really big run during yesterday's team period where, hey, there was pressure blowing around the pocket. He was able to step up and not even get touched. Like he would have had a long, long run. People forget his first season at the University of Oregon, he had over 500 yards rushing. You want to know how many rushing touchdowns Bo had that year? 14. 14 rushing touchdowns. So that aspect, he's a dual threat guy, and he can make plays out of structure, outside of the pocket. But the reality is, like, he can also win from within the pocket, which is what Sean Payton wants. That's why Sean Payton drafted him, to be able to do these things. And Jarrett Stidham, look, doesn't have the largest sample size here, but he's also done a really good job of working this offense here for the Broncos. So, it is a competition between these two guys, and I'm excited to see how it plays out. We'll see who gets the reps today. I feel like it's going to be Stidham today with the ones.
I actually just saw a tweet, I believe, from Parker Gabriel confirming that. Yeah, in the early going today, it's back to Jarrett Stidham in the walkthrough with the top group. Normal rotation would have been Zach Wilson today. We'll see how the rest of practice progresses. So here's what I'll say as well on the QB stuff here, Cody. I think the Broncos want Bo Nix to win it.
100%.
I think they want Bo Nix to be the starting quarterback. But here's the other thing.
You should want Bo Nix to win the starting job, too.
Absolutely. When you insert Bo Nix as the starting quarterback, whether it's week 1, week 8, week 12, whatever it might be, the stopwatch for Sean Payton starts. Because the Broncos and Sean Payton in particular, they identified Bo Nix as a guy that they wanted. They drafted him. And so I think you want to protect him a little bit. Why throw him into the fire early in the season?
Unless he's ready.
Unless he's ready, exactly, which is why I say they want him to win it. But if you're a little half in, half out with Bo Nix, why throw him into the fire week 1 against a Seattle team that's going to be a hostile environment when you can let him mature and develop? So I do think they want Bo Nix to be the guy eventually, whether that's week 1 or in the middle of the season, we'll find out. But I do think Bo Nix will be your starter at some point or another throughout the season. Let me ask you one more question before we get you out of here, and it has something to do with training camp. Why is Justin Simmons still unsigned?
It's the biggest mystery to me. I mean, so I think you see a lot of conflicting reports. And look, I haven't talked to Justin. Like, when I talk to Justin, it's not about football.
Right.
But the thing I believe it is, like, Kareem Jackson just signed with the Buffalo Bills today on a 1-year deal. You know, and you've seen Eddie Jackson. He went to the Ravens. You look at Jamal Adams. He went to the Titans. And so you've seen these free agent safeties. I think Quandre Diggs and Justin Simmons are the top 2 safeties available right now. For Justin, it's not about money. Right? Look, he had a big contract. That's a big reason why the Broncos had to release him, because of the Russell Wilson release and the cap ramifications there. But it's not necessarily about the money. Like, obviously, you want fair market value, right? Understandable. But for Justin, it's more about fit. And at this point of his career, he's a veteran guy. He's established, leads the NFL in interceptions since 2016 with 30 picks. Like, Justin can still play some really good football, but at this point, is it going to be the right fit for me? He wants to go play for a contender. He wants to have a chance to win it. And by all means, Justin deserves to go win.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing. This is a guy who's given so much, and still, like, he's still living here in Denver and whatnot. Like, I felt like it was kind of sad in a sense to see, like, yesterday, I don't know if you saw it on Twitter, but it's like, hey, somebody who was here at Broncos practice, they went to, like, a golf course at the driving range. Like, it's weird seeing Justin Simmons at the driving range and not on the football field, which is I agreeance with you.
That's where I got to ask, and then we'll let you go here. As training camp progresses, as you get closer and closer to the season, you think there's any chance that the Broncos maybe give Justin Simmons a call?
I mean, I feel like they should. Here's the thing. Like, right now we're watching the walkthrough. Brandon Jones, who they signed in the offseason, free agency, obviously to come in and play safety alongside P.J. Locke. He's got a hamstring injury. This is something that looked like it was lingering, like, because he missed a couple of days of OTAs as well. Now he's out here expected to miss 1 or 2 weeks. It's a hamstring injury.
And
those
a little bit of
tough.
an injury-prone player. He's had some injury history.
And the safety position has been impacted by injuries. Caden Stearns off the PUP list is working his way back right now. He's getting reps right now on walkthrough. You got 2 young guys in Devin Key, J.L. Skinner, who are obviously impressive young players. I think they've had a really good camp so far to start. Preseason's where it's going to really matter. But Denver's 1 injury away at that position to one of those guys to being like, what are we doing? And look, I think Justin would welcome coming back to Denver. Like, he didn't want to go anywhere. He didn't want to be released. Like, this is home for him.
Wasn't his choice.
No. And so if it were up to Justin, he'd still be here. But now that he's got the opportunity to kind of evaluate his options, there are teams that are interested in him. I can tell you that. But he's taking his time. There's not a rush to do it right now. And I think ultimately that's a good thing. He will land on an NFL team here shortly. And look, even if it goes into the regular season, there's a team, let's say San Francisco or Houston or, a contender at this point that has an injury at that position. Justin's going to be the first guy called by a contender.
Yeah,
guaranteed. But a lot of these teams already have their roster at that position. So it's kind of a tough position for Justin right now.
Well said. We'll see what happens with Justin Simmons. We'll see what happens with the Denver Broncos as training camp continues. He's Cody Roark. Be sure to follow him on social at Cody Roark NFL. Check out his work online at milehighsports.com and on the Mile High Sports social channels. All right, Cody, get out of here. Go do your job. And we'll be back at it again here in just a few minutes on Sean and Sandy, talking all things Denver Broncos live from Broncos Camp.